Welcome to the Skip and Shannon Undisputed podcast. I'm Joy Taylor. You can catch us Monday through Friday at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, 6:30 Pacific on FS1. Here's what this podcast is all about. It's an unscripted, unfiltered, undisputed version of the day's show, and there is a lot to get into in today's podcast. Skip claims that if UCLA-Kentucky was the NCAA championship game, the ratings might be higher than Magic versus Bird. Shannon says LaVar Ball is bigger than Lonzo, and he hasn't shot a jumper in 20 years. Chris Carter tells us his personal experience with addiction and why we should give Johnny Manziel another chance. Glenn Davis weighs in on if Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce have a part in Ray Allen not being invited to the Celtics championship team reunion. Plus, how will the Patriots visiting the White House on April 19th play out? And one more thing before we get started, check out the latest edition of the Sidelines with Evan Daniels podcast featuring Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers. The former MVP really opens up on a variety of topics, including the massive impact being overlooked since high school has had on his career, his relationship with Steph Curry, and how Tom Brady has changed the way he prepares for the season. Plus, he discusses the Packers' Super Bowl chances in 2017. It's a must-listen for any football fan, so check out the Sidelines with Evan Daniels podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud today. Good morning, guys.
How are you, Shannon?
Well, I mean,
It's a
go
big
ahead.
day.
You're not going to say anything?
She knows how I feel about her. I don't have to, reinforce it every day, or I don't have to do the phony sincerity, but it's okay.
Oh, now I'm phony.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
I think you guys both look very nice this morning. Let's get started with a huge game in the NCAA tournament tonight. Number 2 seed Kentucky plays number 3 seed UCLA. In the Sweet 16, UCLA beat Kentucky by 5 back in December at Rupp Arena when Kentucky was the number 1 team in the nation. Big game tonight. Skip, who wins?
Big game. This is something. I go way back watching this tournament. I was there when Magic played Bird, 1979, Salt Lake City, when this tournament got put on the national map. And as Sweet 16 games go, this is it for me. If only this were the championship game, the ratings might threaten the Magic Bird ratings that still remain number 1 all time for a championship game.
Or at least the Final Four game, Skip.
Or a Final Four game. So the odds makers say this is a pick'em, as in this is fittingly a toss-up.
Wow.
You can go either way. And to me, this is going to boil down to this. Kentucky has 3 of the top 9 recruits from last year. You know who they are. Malik Monk, you love him.
Yep.
De'Aaron Fox, I love him.
Yep.
And Adebayo, bam. And I'm starting to really love him. He's become a force in the paint. UCLA has only 1 of the top 9 from the last year's recruiting trail, and that is Lonzo Ball. And I am here to suggest that Lonzo Ball, whom I consider the best player in the country and the best player from this recruiting class, and who should be the number 1 overall pick in next year's in this coming up NBA draft, will ultimately rise above this game, take over this game, and make his team a little better than Kentucky. I'm going to go with a barn burner of a shootout of a marquee matchup on Friday night national TV. What is it, 9:39 Eastern time? I'm going to go UCLA 90-88 because I'm going to say UCLA will get its average. It averaged 90 points a game. It shot 52% from the field, which led the nation from the field, which shows you that Lonzo is helping create high percentage shots for a lot of shooters around him. And I love this team. I love its offensive chemistry and flow. I have not loved it defensively, but I think they've gotten a little better while, since these two teams did meet on December 3rd, Kentucky has gotten way better on defense. That's why this game is such an intriguing and unpredictable matchup to me, because Kentucky, in its first 2 NCAA games, just locked people down in ways that I applaud Coach Calipari. He can get the one-and-dones to play the right way. He can get them to play on both ends of the floor. He can especially get them to play defense. And tonight, they're going to have to really play defense. But it's still going to boil down to the point guard matchup. Guards win college basketball games. We see what Frank Mason III can do for Kansas as a senior.
And Devontae Graham.
Oof, wow, I agree. And yet here, when was the last time you can remember we had 2 top 5 pick point guards going head to head? Because De'Aaron Fox can flat out get in the lane on anybody. He doesn't shoot it that consistently from outside, but he can break down a defense. Lonzo Ball, on the other hand, has a deadly three-point stroke. I don't love to look at it. It's funky. It's sort of Kevin Martin-esque, if you remember Kevin Martin, that sort of sideways shot. But it is lethal from long distance. And Lonzo Ball is the best passer in college basketball. That's not even a question. He is the fastest player in college basketball with the ball in his hands. And he speeds up their offense so much that they get quick quality shots that they are all supremely confident in taking and making. And by the way, Bryce Alford, Steve Alford's kid, the coach's kid, is a very good college basketball shooter who's very experienced in these kinds of games.
Like his dad was.
You know, his dad could really shoot at that level.
The 87 finals against Syracuse.
You got that right. So my X factor for Kentucky is your guy, Malik Monk, that you said you thought you would take #1 overall. You need to see a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm liking Josh Jackson now.
Are you?
Yeah.
After last night, it's hard not to like Josh Jackson. But Malik Monk can go crazy hot from the three-point line and get you 40 or 50, or who knows, he might get you 60. Or he can go crazy cold and he can get you 2, as he does occasionally.
Right.
So I don't know which one of those guys will show up, and that could be the difference in the game. The X factor for UCLA is our man, LaVar Ball versus Steve Alford. We're about to talk about a big new bombshell story in USA Today about LaVar Ball's interference with the high school basketball coach at Chino Hills and his assertion that he now runs the UCLA program, which could be news to Steve Alford. But we'll get into that in just a moment, but that could be a distraction. Steve Alford could be a distraction as a subplot, potentially going back to Indiana. He could announce it after, if they lose tonight, he could announce it after the game. Who knows? So lots swirling around Lonzo, but I think Lonzo, a quality kid, will be able to rise above it, overcome it, and lead the Bruins to a huge marquee national showcase win, barely 90-88 over the Wildcats.
Skip, I wanted to pick Kentucky, but I wanted to pick Kentucky for all the wrong reasons. My old producer on the old show, Eric Mann, used to always tell me, he said, Shannon, never pick a team because you like their colors or just because you don't like the other team. Give the fans at home a reason why you really like this team.
That's fair.
I'm going UCLA. And the reason I'm leaning against Kentucky is because Malik Monk came into the SEC tournament averaging 21.2 a game. But since the SEC tournament, he's averaging 13 points a game. That's 8 points. Now, you say, well, 8 points, that's really not, they can get that from somewhere else. But it's how he got those 8 quick points. Skip, he would come down, boom, boom, 2 threes and a 2. Now, a lead that was 4 points, all of a sudden is 12.
Yep.
And here they go again. That's why they can't get the separation, because he's not playing as well as he needs to play. And that's the problem that they have. Now, UCLA, they don't have as much firepower as far as you mentioned, the top 10 picks. All they have is Lonzo Ball. But I think that works to their advantage because they don't have to worry about how many shots they're going to get, because they know if they find an open space, Lonzo Ball will give them an opportunity to get easy buckets.
Yep.
When you have that many #1 recruits on your team, 5-star recruits, they're used to shooting as much as they want, when they want, no matter what. It might be 30 seconds in the shot clock. It might be 2.
Yep.
But when you play with UCLA and you have a point guard like Alonzo Ball, this is what he does. He is one of these old school, let me get you involved. I know I can come back and get mine, but let me get you involved. Let me get you comfortable. Yeah. And then later, if I need to take over the game, a lot like he did in Cincinnati, second half, I will do that. Skip, I agree with you because, you know, LaVar Ball can be really distracting. But I think what helps Lonzo is that he's had to deal with it for 19 years. It's just come to our recognition over the last 2 months. But Lonzo's like, I've been dealing this since I've been playing basketball. He's always been outspoken. He's always been yelling instructions from the stands. So it doesn't bother me. It doesn't affect me. It affects you because you're not used to having a parent this outspoken in the national lexicon. So with that being said, I think it's going to be a very close ball game, but I went almost like a similar score, Skip. I got UCLA 89, Kentucky 85.
Okay, and you have come around because for a while you were riding Kentucky.
Yes.
And you've also come around in the beginning when we had LaVar Ball on the show. If I interpret correctly, you came around, you started to like him.
I do like.
This week he began to alienate you, right?
Skip, the thing is with me, I love the way his approach to his kids. I don't have a problem. I'm not here to try to tell someone how they should raise their kids.
Yep.
But at some point in time, you constantly trying to tell everybody, and I get what he's doing. He's trying to build that brand. He's trying to get that triple B's out in everybody's. You see these beads? I own these beads. Kobe Bryant doesn't own the Mamba logo. King James doesn't own the King crown. I own these triple B's. Okay, I get all that, bro. But can your kids go play basketball? Can you not just talk? Hey, I mean, look, this is not, if you say it's not about you, it's about the kids, well, let it be about the kids. Let them go play, and their players speak for itself.
But your point was, talking about your old producer, I think you were getting anti-LaVar Ball, so you were getting anti-UCLA.
Yes.
Now you said, okay, I'm going to be objective.
Right.
I still think his son can be the best player on the floor.
Absolutely. And that's the one thing I always try to get away from. I'm not going to pick against a team just because I think the father is a helicopter dad. He's always hovering. He's always around, chirping into everybody's ear. Look at me. Look at my boy. You know, my boys. My boy. My boy outrun Kentucky. Okay, we're about to see tonight, Skip.
No, I agree. Last quick point. Remember, UCLA won on December 3rd at Rupp Arena at Kentucky, and it was 97-92, which you don't see very often in college basketball. But here's my takeaway from that game, which I watched from start to finish. Lonzo, by his best player in the country standards, did not play that well in that game. He had 6 turnovers, which was season high for him.
Right.
I say he will play much better tonight, and that will be the difference.
You know, the thing is, but sometimes, Skip, like when you're a good player, you're on a team by yourself, and another team has a lot of great players, you try to outdo them all by yourself. So I'm just hopefully, you know, he'll like, okay, let me play my game. I don't need to impress them or any scouts. They've seen my body of work thus far. Let me go do me, and we should win this ball game.
Well, it's a lot of pressure tonight. No mercy. USA Today has an interesting story from Chino Hills High School basketball coach talking about his season-long feud with LaVar Ball. The coach says there were games where he didn't even talk to LaMelo and LiAngelo, and LaVar would call out plays from the crowd during games. The coach, Stephen Gilling, told this story. LaVar Ball turns around and walks to our locker room. I said, LaVar, don't go into the locker room. He continues walking. I said, LaVar, why are you trying to embarrass me? And he just kept walking and goes into the locker room. He's in there sitting down with the team, and I'm like, LaVar, get out. Later, an assistant coach comes up to me and tells me that he sees LaVar rallying the team up in the team hotel. I guess he got them out of their rooms on the 18th floor and tells the team that it was his system that won, that we're doing what he says. I run Chino Hills, I run UCLA, about to run the NBA.
Yeah. Defend your boy, Skip. Defend your boy, Skip.
Skip, what do you make of it?
I have defended LaVar Ball, as you well know, on this show, for the way he raised his kids, because I love the positive reinforcement. I do. And it sure looks like his number one son is turning out to be a pretty good young man with high character, playing the basketball game the right way. Am I right?
Yes.
He plays the right way. He's unselfish to a fault. But I did blame, or I'm sorry, I criticized LaVar for blaming the coach after the 2 younger sons lost their playoff game. I thought that was completely out of bounds. And I found this story that Joy just read extremely disturbing. It felt completely over the edge. You call it helicopter dad. The old cliche is stage father or stage mother, this case stage father, who is completely out of control and potentially could ruin the careers of all 3 sons if he's not careful, because now he's interfering with their team structures, because he did coach them up through their AAU ranks. So I know he's invested in their strategy of their games. But when you are yelling out plays, as Joy said, from the second row, this is a game in Las Vegas earlier this year, high school at Chino Hills game. And he wanted them to double team and trap at half court defensively. And he kept yelling, double team, double team. And the coach didn't love it. So that when the coach got the team in the locker room at halftime, he said, we are not going to double team anymore. They were trailing at half. We're going man to man. You're going to stay on your man. And they rallied and they won by, I think, 8. So after the game, LaVar confronts the coach, is it Stephen Gilling?
Yeah.
In the hallway outside the locker room, chewed him out, and then proceeded to start to march in. And against the coach said, don't go in there. Don't do that. You're going to embarrass me, which you would. You're just showing up the coach.
Exactly.
You're going to go in and act like you run the team, which he did. And then the coach goes in after him and asks all the players except his 2 sons to follow the coach back to the hotel, which they did. So it just split the team apart. The 2 sons stay. Then LaVar goes back to the hotel, calls all the players out of their rooms on the 18th floor, and he holds a meeting of just players and LaVar as if he's the coach, and then he uttered these words. Now remember, we're having to take the word only of the coach. This is what the coach said, that LaVar said to the team, that I run Chino Hills, I run UCLA, and I'm about to run the NBA. LaVar would not comment for this story. That's the first time he's no comment on anybody,
hold
right?
on, Skip, hold on. Wait a minute, Skip.
Well,
now, he just said he'll say and answer the question any way he wants to when someone asks him a question.
But his rep said that he was upset with the previous story done by USA Today, and he was no longer speaking to USA Today. So for whatever reason, we don't have LaVar's side of this story, okay? But the coach said it, and the athletic director backed up the coach from Chino Hills. So that is as disturbing and damaging a quote as has ever come out of that man's mouth. Because now, today, Steve Alford's going to be asked about, does LaVar run your program too? Really? Mm-hmm. And now the GMs and the owners of the National Basketball Association teams that could pick high in the draft are sitting back saying, wait, does he think he's going to run our whole show when we draft his kid? No, he's not. Or maybe we won't draft his kid, right?
Yep.
So this is completely out of bounds, over the edge. I lose all respect for him. If, in fact, this is true, I would like to hear his side of this story, because a lot of times I do get a different side when I hear his side. But the floor is yours.
I don't need to hear his side. I saw him sitting right here for 10 minutes. I've seen him go on every talk show and every debate forum and on every radio show. That's him. Listen to the way he talks now. It's about him. Skip, if you have to constantly remind me that you got me this job, it says more about you than it does about me.
You mean the high school coach?
The high
he
school
got
coach.
him his job. He sort of handpicked him to succeed the previous coach.
Yes.
Okay,
Skip.
go ahead.
There is no doubt in my mind, Joy, a large part of the reason why I'm here is because of Skip Bayless. But not one time has Skip ever said, this would have been a better segment if you had done it just like I did it, if you'd have just listened to me. Skip has never said that.
I think it, but I don't say it. I'm kidding. Go ahead.
He's like, you do you. You're Shannon. You can be Shannon better than anybody.
That is true.
I have no doubt in my mind this is absolutely what he said, because he believes it. It's his boys, my boys. The team is successful because of my boys. UCLA is successful because of my boy. That's his thought process, Skip. He actually believed he runs Chino Hills. And for the longest time, because his kids are the best players, he probably does. And to an extent, I'm sure he gets privileges from UCLA that no other parent gets from the players.
Probably true, but does he get to suggest strategy changes to Steve Alford? That's what I want to know.
I don't believe that.
Yep.
I don't believe that. But I know for a fact, when he comes into the National Basketball League, he's not going to run anything. Now, maybe if he's a Michael Jordan, if Lonzo is as good as Michael Jordan, if he's better than LeBron or Russ or Steph Curry, okay, he might call. Lonzo might get an opportunity to call some shots. Ain't nobody listening to no dad. So he can forget that. But like I said, it's all about him, because he wants the spotlight on, because think about it, Skip, for 19 years, we only knew LaVar as Lonzo's dad. But now he's almost taking the spotlight. He's bigger than Lonzo, and he hadn't shot a jumper in 20 years.
That is correct.
He hadn't played competitive basketball in 2 decades. And because he's hijacked the forum, because he's hijacked the spotlight from his son, we're talking about, did you hear what Lonzo said? Did you hear what?
LaVar,
excuse me. Did you hear what LaVar?
Because you never hear what Lonzo says. He just doesn't say much.
No, okay. What did he say, and why is he saying it? He doesn't contribute to the outcome of the game, so why is he constantly talking? You know what? It's like that. You just buzz. Gee. Sometimes you just leave him alone. Just let him land. Have his face, say on your arm or on your face, and when he get tired, he'll go on about his way. But Skip, he's the type of guy now. He's a 5-alarm fire, and he has oxygen. And as long as you give him a forum, he's going to continuously say outlandish things. But I find it very ironic, a man that will take shots at superstar athletes' kids, say my boy is better than a two-time MVP or he's better than this, all of a sudden he has no comments. He could have said, it's not true. He could have easily said that, Skip, that's a lie. That's not true, that's not true. But you know what, Skip? It is true because guess what? Somehow this reporter would have got around to some of the players. And guess what the players would have said? Yeah, Mr. Ball called us out of our room and we went down there to the ballroom and we had a meeting.
Well, for the record, I don't know that for a fact. They didn't quote any players.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
You could be right, but I don't know that for a fact. And I do believe that LaVar had some issue with USA Today over a previous story. That's fine. Maybe we'll hear more. Knowing him, he'll pick another forum to
But here's the thing, though, Skip. Why did he have a problem? All he did was write down what he said. What problem does he have with USA Today?
The lightning rod, the flashpoint quote is, I run Chino Hills, I run UCLA. And that's coming from the high school coach saying that LaVar said that. Did he, in fact, say it? I don't know.
Skip.
Does it sound like him? It could sound like him.
The man says he owned the Triple Bs, and somebody's going to have to give him $1 billion to decide to get his boys.
Yep.
Does that sound like a guy that's willing to take a back seat to a coach or an organization in the NBA?
It's also it's very disturbing because you're talking about high school kids.
Yeah, I agree. And so one high school kid he just finished his sophomore year, is the last son. And it's going to be very interesting at Chino Hills to see somebody's going to have to stay or go, you would think.
Something has to give.
Yeah, is the coach going to be back, or is the third son going to stay or go to some transfer?
I can't work under those types of conditions.
You know?
I'd go. I mean, it's better for me to have peace of mind and go to a team. Maybe I'm not competing for a state title. Maybe I'm just, win 20 games and maybe advance to the playoffs and get knocked out in the first round.
LaVar will be spread a little more thin, though, now. Because he'll have Lonzo in the NBA, his middle son in UCLA, and then a son in high school. So might not be around as much.
Well, maybe he should go. Maybe some team on the East Coast. See, if they draft Lonzo on the East Coast, UCLA, so how did he split? It's only one LaVar.
But if it's the Lakers?
No, Magic, don't do it.
No mercy. NFL Network is reporting Johnny Manziel was spotted having breakfast with Saints head coach Sean Payton during Super Bowl week, and the two discussed a possible return to football. The report says Payton has an interest in Manziel, and Johnny has been keeping a low profile while he trains for a return. We're joined by Chris Carter. Chris, are you surprised the Saints would have an interest in Manziel?
I'm not surprised, and I'm really pulling for Johnny. And not only Johnny, but more people in Johnny's situation. A lot of people, they look at Johnny's background, comes from a very affluent family, grandparents. So he comes from some type of wealth in his family. But more what I'm cheering for the alcoholic, the substance abuse, because this is what we're going through in society. There's millions and millions of people out there. It's been recorded, 24 million people. Only 1 million people are getting help. Johnny has decided he wanted to get help. And it's no different than anyone else going to their job that they might have some type of substance abuse problem. Once they get that help, what do you do with them? So you send them back into society, and what do they do for a living? Johnny's a professional football player. His greatest contribution he can make right now, being clean and going through the program, is to be able to go back and play football to try to reach his full potential. Now, what is his full potential? That's still out there. So, yes, I'm pulling for Johnny, and I'm not surprised the NFL team. If you look at the extreme that NFL teams go to fill their roster and some of the things they look beyond, it's based on an owner and a head coach. If they believe in you, they can create a scenario for you to be able to play in the league. Now, is that fair? You know, life is not fair. But I believe Johnny will definitely get a second chance. I'm pulling for him because of what he's going through. You know, he is an alcoholic or he is a drug addict. And I'm not saying that to put him on blast, but that's just the reality. And the more that he realizes that, the sooner he realizes that. That's why he went to get help. So for me, the person that's trying to get help, after they get help, they need to work. And the best way to be able to sustain some type of recovery is to have, consistent employment. And the reason why the day is very important to me, because 26 years ago, in 6 months, on a Friday at 5 o'clock, I had my last drink. And I decided I wasn't going to drink for a week and haven't had a drink since then. So for me, it's not even a fair question to ask me, should he, am I surprised? I'm pulling for the National Football League because you don't hear a lot of stories of guys recovering. Guys have substance abuse problems, they have drug problems, and they don't recover. But ultimately, we do recover, and we do go on to do great things with our life. So for me, I'm pulling for Johnny. Johnny has sought help. Johnny has gotten help. He has remained out of the spotlight to a certain degree. Now, I'm pulling that he's able to go on and get employment because if he is, it's going to make him a stronger man, and he's going to be a greater contributor to society if he gets that part right. So I'm not cheering for the football side of him. I'm cheering for the human, the life side of Johnny Manziel. And I'm not surprised the NFL team will give him a chance, even though they might not give other players chances with different circumstances.
By the way, God bless you in your recovery and your ongoing recovery because you will always be recovering.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, absolutely.
I'm shocked. And not the fact that I believe in second chances. I really do believe in second chances. I believe if a man has gone through something, man or woman, they've paid their debt to society, and someone wants to give them an opportunity, I think it's warranted. But this is what I look at it like this. Now, they tell me all the time, the reason why quarterbacks make so much money is because they play the toughest position in the toughest sport. They say the reason why quarterbacks get recycled because there's a scarcity of other quarterbacks. Now they want us to believe that Colin Kaepernick is on the unemployment line. All these roster spots are filled by great quarterbacks. They look at Colin Kaepernick because he took a knee during the national anthem in protest of unarmed black men and women being killed by police officers. They view that as more damaging than a drug and alcoholic abuse and an abuser of women. That's what the NFL is saying. Because you're telling me right now, Johnny Manziel is a better football player than Colin Kaepernick?
No.
Are you telling me right now, Mark Sanchez is a better football player than Colin Kaepernick? Glennon got $15 million. If Glennon was so good, he would be in Tampa, and Tampa would have never got an opportunity to draft Jameis Winston. They drafted Jameis Winston because Mike Glennon couldn't play, and they got the #1 overall pick. Call it like it is. Josh McCown has been on how many teams? 7, 8, 9, 10 teams. Colin Kaepernick had his 16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. I mentioned Aaron Rodgers had a better. Matt Ryan was better. Tom Brady, Derek Carr was better. I said, okay, he had 16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Everybody will say, well, his team sucked. I said, well, what about when he took the team to the Super Bowl? Look at all those Pro Bowlers he had. So if he plays good, his team is bad. If he plays good and they go to the Super Bowl, it's always somebody else's fault. We're willing to give Johnny Manziel a chance. Guy was last to come in the building, first to leave. Showed up to practice drunk. I believe Mike Silver. I know Mike Silver very well. I don't know how well you know him. CC, I know you know it.
I know him well.
And when he talks about the NFL, but there are certain teams, like the Cleveland Browns, like the 49ers, that they're plugged in more to. Showed up to practice drunk. They put him in concussion protocol.
He was an addict.
An addict. All Colin Kaepernick did. He wasn't burning buildings. He wasn't wrecking cars. A silent protest. You're upset. You say, okay, there's something wrong, protest. Then he protests, but don't protest that way. See, we want you to protest, but we want to tell you how to protest. Skip, I got no problem. I'm not advocating that Colin Kaepernick gets a job. If you're not hiring, I got no problem with that. But don't be hiring and just not be hiring me. Because then therein lies where I have the problem. Colin Kaepernick has regressed. Colin Kaepernick isn't good anymore. He has too much baggage to be a backup. You think Johnny Manziel going in there to compete with Drew Brees?
No.
What offense? So you telling me, because everybody keep telling me you're going to have to run a different, I got to unbutton this guy. I'm not a Baptist minister today, CCI.
You got a good case. You're pleading a good case.
Yeah.
So you're telling me if we bring Colin Kaepernick in as a backup, we're going to have 2 systems. You actually think Johnny Manziel can run the system that Drew Brees run?
No.
His whole thing is improvisation. It's off script. That's when he's at his absolute best. That's why he came into everybody's vernacular, Skip. He went to Tuscaloosa, and he improvisation. his way to a championship over the number 1 team in the country. It wasn't on script. He wasn't dropping back.
They just they beat.
No, I'm saying they beat the number 1 team.
Right.
Yes.
And he was in everybody's living room from that point on. But it wasn't no 1, 2, 3. It was
He won the game with the 1-2-3 throw to the corner.
Oh.
Hey, it was sweet.
Go ahead. What about the Gene Swope when they had him sacked? What about him running all the way around? He pumping and he throwing it up to Mike Evans.
But the game winner was a straight pocket pass. But go ahead.
Yep.
It's okay. I'm with you.
How long ago that's been? I think Colin Kaepernick has won Colin Kaepernick has been to a Super Bowl,
Shannon, seriously, you're missing the point. Colin Kaepernick is better than 6 or 8 starting quarterbacks who are playing right now.
Okay.
There's no doubt. He is a proven commodity in the National Football League. He took a team nearly to a Super Bowl championship, and he took another team nearly to a second Super Bowl appearance. That's how good he was under a coach who believed in him heart and soul and obviously put him in positions to succeed the way maybe no coach right now would trust himself to put himself in position to succeed. So I wish he could go play for Jim Harbaugh again, as I keep telling you, but Jim Harbaugh, unfortunately, is coaching college football right now for Colin Kaepernick. Johnny Manziel is an unproven commodity to the X factor, where he could be a bust, he could be a lost cause, but he could be what everybody saw going into that draft, which is he could be pretty good. And there's one coach in this whole league, the National Football League, who is even more arrogant than Bill Belichick, and it's that guy who runs the New Orleans Saints. He is arrogant to a fault to me. Sometimes it's alienating to me, but he is a watch this guy. Watch me call this play. Watch me run this kind of attack. I will show the NFL I can do it this way.
And also, Skip, there was tremendous question marks around Drew Brees and his injury. And Drew Brees was not a great thrower of the football.
He wasn't
undersized and said his arm was average to above average strength. I didn't want to mention.
It's okay.
But it was
But
important.
Sean Payton said, watch this. Oh, San Diego, you say no to him. You say it's Phillip Rivers. He flunks the physical in Miami. Watch what I do. Got him a Super Bowl, got him a top 5 quarterback. And you don't think Sean takes some credit for the success of Drew Brees?
Absolutely,
with
and
that
rightfully
system?
so.
Okay, so I can see where Sean Payton is intrigued with the project that could be Johnny Manziel over the next 3 years, because Drew is going to play, he says, at least 3 more years, maybe 4 or 5. So this is the one guy in this league who'd say, watch what I can do if I rebuild Johnny Manziel into this system.
Also, his number 1 mentor is Bill Parcells. And between the two of them, they have helped so many players with issues like this. So for me,
That's true.
I'm not surprised that he would be the one to take the chance because of his background. And Bill Parcells has his ear. He stays in contact with them. And I know how Bill feels about players. And players like this, we know that through LT and a number of other players.
So Shannon, you're exactly right. He showed up drunk in Cleveland, but remember the situation into which he was drafted. The GM did not want him. The head coach did not want him. The offensive coordinator said no to Johnny Manziel.
He left.
And on draft night, he left over. On draft night, only the quarterback coach, Dal Loggins, is texting with Johnny Manziel. Love Johnny because he'd clicked with him before the draft. And Johnny texts back, hey, let's wreck the league together. Remember this quote? And Dal shows the text to what's his name?
Jimmy
Haslam. Yeah, the owner, who says, wait a second, the buck stops here. I got the final word in this war room, and I say with the 22nd overall pick, we are going to take Johnny Manziel, to the horror of 3 other people in that room. So he comes into a situation in which half or 2/3 of the staff doesn't even want him. And what happened? I said on TV before the draft, if he has drug or alcohol problems, I'm out.
Yes,
I thought he was sort of maintaining, coexisting, and to your point, he collapsed in an unhealthy situation to start with for a bad football team, and he went from bad to worse to the bottle to drug issues. And that was nearly the end of Johnny Manziel as we knew him in this league. So this is the last chance. This isn't just a second chance. He's got one last shot. And this guy's intrigued, and I'm told Kansas City has some intrigue with Johnny.
He was,
as a project.
First of all, he made that because he was about to fall out of the first round. He knew that. He knew he had a friend in Darryl Loggins, showed the text to Jimmy Haslam, and they took it. It is my belief his football career will be more Art Sleester than Chris Carter's.
You could be right. Okay, you well could be right, but Here's a guy in New Orleans who will say, I'll take a low-risk shot to see if as a project, I don't even know if he'll be the backup. He might be the third quarterback for a year.
You see what you did there, Skip?
Yeah.
You see what everybody's doing? Everybody's willing to take a shot on Johnny Manziel. Nobody right now is willing to give Colin Kaepernick
but Colin
a shot.
is a starting quarterback. If you bring him in, you should start Colin Kaepernick.
Not necessarily.
He's not
Skip.
your typical Mark Sanchez, I'll do what you say, I'll hold my helmet on the sideline.
He's
not
still
that
young
guy.
enough that
Yeah.
if you saw the potential in him.
Yeah.
And Shannon, you're right. You're right. We can't move the marker. The reason why he doesn't have a job is because of what he did.
Yes. That's it.
No doubt.
And
That's
those other 31 owners at the end of the day, them and their wives, they make a decision who's going to be on their roster. And for me, right now, I don't see a spot for Colin Kaepernick, and he's going to be able to say that it's because of what he did last season.
Yeah. The spot was San Francisco. I thought he and Kyle Shanahan would be a perfect match. That's just me.
I thought so too. I thought so because Kyle coached someone very similar.
He did.
And RG3, who got him the Rookie of the Year, and he won a division title with him.
Sure did.
I think Colin Kaepernick is in a better space mentally, physically, and emotionally than what RG3 is.
Totally
So
agree.
it would be I thought it would be a very good fit. Okay, you redo the deal. Redo the deal, makes it worthwhile for Colin, makes it worthwhile for the 49ers. Put some incentives in there. If he reached those, okay, fine and good. But for people to sit here and like, Colin Kaepernick isn't any good. Or he's a distraction. The baggage that he... Whoa, wait a minute. Whoa. This dude got a...
Well, the comments about him not being any good are comparing him when he was playing in the Super Bowl to where he is now. He's obviously regressed, but if you're not looking at the numbers, then it's easy to throw that out.
Yeah,
Chris,
but
thanks so much for joining
his
us.
regression is where Johnny has never been.
Right, you're right.
No mercy.
It was announced yesterday that the Super Bowl champion Patriots will visit the White House on April 19th. At least 6 former and current Patriot players have said they will skip the visit to meet President Trump. Shannon, how will this play out?
It's going to be very interesting because this is what we know. The 3 most important figures, the 3 most prominent figures, they love President Trump. Mr. Kraft said that President Trump reached out to him in his lowest point when his wife died of cancer.
This is pre-election.
This is pre-election.
It's going back away.
It was reported that Coach Belichick wrote a handwritten note to President Trump congratulating him and letting him know how proud he was.
Yep.
Tom Brady beat everybody to the punch because he had a red hat in his locker that says, "Make America Great Again." And but oh golly gee whiz, I don't know how that thing got there. Guys, it's nothing. It's just a hat. Skip, what I want to know is, because we've seen some of the African Americans speak out right after the Super Bowl, I'm not going. LeGarrette Blount said he's not going. He's unsigned, even though he rushed for over 1,000 yards, had 8, led the league in rushing touchdowns. He hasn't re-signed. Martellus Bennett said he's not going. Zeus Hightower says he's not going. He said the reason why, because he had already gone once with Alabama. That could be true, could not be true. Alan Branch said also he's not going. Devin McCourty says he's not going. It's going to be interesting to see how many of those black players show up at the White House. President Trump doesn't really care. As long as those 3 big guns show up, he's happy. But moving forward, there's something called the NBA. There's something called the WNBA. There's something called the NCAA women's basketball. Now, we know for a fact how Steve Kerr and Greg Popovich feel about this administration. The likelihood of them showing up with their team, I would say, is probably 1%. LeBron James is minus 800,000%. He's not going. There's a good chance that team wouldn't go. What about women sports? How do they feel about this? Is it just going to be a situation where you get the Patriots, you get maybe hockey, certain baseball teams, Latin players? Are you going to go? Because here's the thing, but this is what we do know for sure. Tom Brady will have he will have no conflicts. There'll be nothing on his schedule that says he can't make an appearance. I don't have a problem with it. You go, you go. I never went. But it wasn't because President Clinton, it wasn't because of George W. Bush, it was because I was training. And I wasn't missing anything. It wasn't.
So you said, I'm not going to go to the White House because I'm training.
On a weekday? You better have that thing on a weekend. And then I would think about it. But I'm not missing a training session to go see nobody. There was nobody when I was playing that important. Okay, maybe they told me God was at the Coliseum. I'd have went down there and saw him. Other than that, Skip, I was not leaving Atlanta, Georgia to go see no man or woman So, Tom Brady, you not showing up, you go and have at it. But you made it political because we've seen some of the Boston Bruins said, Tim Thomas says, I'm not going because. So, do it that way as you may.
And by the way, Chris Long, I think, has said publicly he will not go.
No.
Now a former Patriot,
Right.
but he was on the Super Bowl
Right.
team.
Chris is very socially conscious. He's doing this thing with clean water, bringing a lot of clean water to the country of Africa and certain I don't know how do you say it? It's the continent of Africa, but there's a lot of what are they like Ghana and different places in Africa. He's very conscious. He's very socially conscious. He's very abreast of what's going on, not only abroad, but here in America. And although Chris Long, and I'm not speaking for him, but just knowing his dad and reading his tweets, I follow him, he understands. He understands that this probably would be looked at if he were to go as a representation that he believes in what this man is saying, and this is a representation. And Chris is that this is not a representation of who I am.
I got you. So my step back view of this is still America. And every individual has the right to say, I'm going or I'm not going for whatever reason. It could be political, it could be personal, it could be I'm going to train, right?
Yep.
And Mr. Kraft has pointed out that they've done this 4 previous times and that a number of players each time chose not to go for whatever reasons. Maybe political, maybe personal, maybe scheduling, whatever.
How many of the previous times, in the first 3, how many times did Brady show up? The 4th, we know he didn't show up. So if he goes the previous 3, he misses the 4th and goes the 5th. What are you to think, Skip?
Okay, I'll tell you what I think about that. But remember, Mr. Kraft's point was nobody focused on how many players didn't go. They just took the photo op as it was and said, oh, the Patriots went to the White House. And nobody tried to parse the reasons for, oh, he didn't go. Nobody seemed to care or notice that I don't know if it was 10 or 12 or 15 players did not show up. But now, new age, new president, new dilemma, new conflict. So I get it. I get the focus. And what I'm curious about is I'm not sure how many are going to show up. Like you said, Mr. Kraft has a long-running friendship with Donald Trump predating the election. So does he feel obligated to go out of friendship? Sure, whatever. That's his right. Okay, so if he goes, and let's say Tom Brady does go, and then after that, how many players are going to go? I don't know. Could it be 4? Could it be 5? Could it be 12? Will it be a bad look for all involved? Not only New England, but the regime in the White House? Sure, it could be a bad look.
What if the majority of them that show up are white players and you have one black?
Could be all, could be none. I don't know. It could be bad. This is the one team, I will suggest to you, has a strong enough infrastructure that they can survive this kind of a conflict, right? They'll go right back to training camp in July and all will be forgotten and they'll hug and go back to business, right?
Absolutely. It shouldn't tear the team apart. Whoever goes, you go. Whoever doesn't go, you don't go.
Okay. I want to make one point that I've made once before on the show, and I do think it's going to resonate here. I'm going to remind you that in that week before the New England-Seattle Super Bowl, when Deflategate hit the you-know-what, that it was the bye week. And Tom Brady had done his Q&A session on that Thursday of the bye week. And on Friday, the press secretary for President Obama took a gratuitous shot at Tom Brady, suggesting that he had done a poor job of lying about his involvement in Deflategate, questioning Brady's PR skills. I won't read you the quotes, too long to read, but that's how Brady took this, because several of his friends have said he was just incensed over it, that the mouthpiece of the President of the United States would take a shot at him when he has said from the start, I knew nothing about deflated footballs. Whether you believe that or not, he fought it through 2 levels of court because he said, I knew nothing about it. So the point is, clearly to me, I don't know this for a fact, but the reason he did not attend that White House visit was because of that shot that he felt was taken gratuitously, just completely out of the blue at him just before they were about to play the Super Bowl. Okay, just for the record. So did he have a little axe to grind here, a reason? You know, okay, fine. But other than that, go ahead.
Mr. Kraft saying nobody cared, but when the most visible players doesn't show up, that's what gets people attention. If let's just say for the sake of argument, the Carolina Panthers win the Super Bowl in the next 2 years.
Sure.
And Cam Newton doesn't show up. You don't think that's going to generate something as opposed to the long snapper or the punt returner? Of course.
Well, let's just do this one. If no black player shows up, that will resonate.
Skip, I want to see the basketball. I want to see the basketball champion. I want to see who goes. That's what I want to see the women. I want to see the women.
Okay. I'm with you. I agree. I'm not sure how it will play out. There could be some black players, male or female, who would say in the end, I'm just throwing this out as a possibility, that they love their country enough, they're just going to go to the White House, regardless of whether they believe in the man who's running the show right now. It's possible.
You know what's going to end up happening? I believe will end up happening? He'll end up cutting this out. Like he didn't pick a bracket for the NCAAs. He'll end up cutting it, moving forward. No champion will come to the White House.
Well, this is his best shot of getting anybody to come to the White House, right?
This is it.
By far.
Yep.
It will be interesting. No mercy. Former Celtic Rajon Rondo is planning a 10-year anniversary celebration with Boston's 2008 championship team, but Ray Allen didn't get an invitation. Allen signed in 2012 with the Miami Heat, which caused a highly publicized feud with his former teammates. One former Celtic said, quote, I mean, Ray left, he left to the enemy. Rondo said about the situation, the mindset we had, you wouldn't do anything like that. It makes you question that series in the finals. Who were you for? You didn't bleed green. People think we had a messed up relationship. It's not the greatest, but it's not just me. I called and reached out to a couple other vets and asked them what they wanted to do with the situation. They told me stick with what we got without Allen. Take a listen to what Danny Ainge said about it.
I'm surprised. I think that Ray was such a big part of that. It's to repeat the purpose. Ray's not one of the key guys. He's obviously was a huge part of that championship run. It's the business we're in. I think that there was a lot of contributing factors, and I don't hold that against Ray.
We're joined by Glenn Big Baby Davis. Welcome back. Good to have you. You were a part of that Celtic championship team. So should Ray be invited to the reunion?
Yes. Ray should be invited to the reunion. He was a big part of that team. You think about, situations. Ray got us out of a lot of situations. You should invite the man. You should, I would love to see Ray. I haven't seen him in a long time.
Think about it. In when they were introduced, it was Ray Allen, Paul Pierce, and Kevin Garnett. Paul was already there. Kevin and Ray came in. They labeled them the big three. They didn't include Rondo in that. This is petty beyond petty. This is so utterly ridiculous. And you remember this is what Charles Oakley got into it with Charles Dolan. He's like, you have reunions with the teams for the 90s. James Dolan, excuse me. And I don't get invited. How are you going to have a championship, a reunion of a championship team, Skip, Big Baby, and you don't invite Ray Allen, who was one of the key figures? This is so petty. I believe this has a lot more to do. Now, Rondo maybe is the mouthpiece. Maybe he's the spokesman. But I believe this has a lot more to do with Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce. Because you remember when Ray came back with the Miami Heat, Kevin Garnett, Kevin, he got to be tough. I ain't shaking his hand. As a free agent, I get to determine if I want to stay or if I want to go. And if I choose to leave, I'm definitely not going to let you determine where I go. And for Rondo to say, okay, he went to the enemy, makes me wonder, really, bro? So you're gonna question that when y'all lost to the Miami Heat, that somehow Ray maybe possibly threw the game or he wasn't trying his absolute hardest. See, Skip, this is the pettiness that I told you about that. See how we bicker with one another, Joy? See how we do us? Baby, you see what I'm talking about?
I see you.
That's how we do. This is beyond silliness. This is beyond petty. That a guy that helped contribute to get a ring, and you're like, well, because he left as a free agent, he went to the enemy. And I'm so, ooh, boy, my people.
Okay, so Rondo did say that it's not just Rondo's belief that that Ray shouldn't be invited, but that he's getting that from other stars on the team. So to your point, I think there are only two other stars on the team. No offense, but you were a big contributor, but you weren't like one of the big
I,
three.
I
right?
was not a star at all.
You
Blue collar.
You did all the dirty
blue collar.
Hey,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
were
Give me the
white collar,
scraps.
blue collar, though. You could really do some stuff, man. So the point is, were you not a very close-knit basketball team that year that you won the championship?
We were.
Extreme.
We were extremely close-knit basketball team. I just think when Rondo started to appear and started to, hey, here I am, it wasn't a mutual, hey, this is our new shining star with Ray. Hey, it was more, hey, this is KG, Paul, Ray Allen's team. And I just feel like it could have been stopped. Whatever that it could have been stopped. It could have been stopped, but
What could have been stopped? The clashing between Rondo and
Ray Allen. It could have been stopped.
Doc could have stopped it.
Danny, Doc, somebody could have stopped
Okay, but
it.
Rondo was difficult to coach. He's always been difficult to coach. And there were clashes with Doc, and there'd be film sessions where he'd throw a fit and walk out. And you've seen some of this. It's just the way Rondo is built.
But Ray Allen's not
Okay.
hey, easy person to get along with now. Don't think Jesus Shuttleworth can walk on water now.
Okay, that's
Let me stop that right now, because Rondo has his points, because Ray Allen has his times when he's Ray Allen and he needs to get the ball, and Doc doesn't give him the ball because he gives it to Paul Pierce.
Okay, we got it. So, big picture. Jerry Jones talks now about what he calls the do-right rule concerning the release or trade of Tony Romo.
Correct.
And the do-right rule is that I will not trade Tony Romo to Jacksonville because he wouldn't like it in Jacksonville, nor will Tony, if I release him, opt to go to the rival Washington Redskins.
Correct.
Okay, so that's do right. So the other point Rondo is making is that the other stars on that championship team were offended that he did not observe the do-right rule. He went to your quote-unquote mortal enemy, right? He went to the Heat. And not only go to the Heat, but you talked about how Ray got you out of a number of situations. He got LeBron out of one big situation, right?
Yeah.
He made the shot of shots. He made the greatest clutch shot I've ever seen to help LeBron James win his, what was it, Shannon, his second championship?
Second.
Yep. And they were dead in the water, man. They were cooked. They're down 5 with 18 seconds left, and then LeBron
comes
takes
Jesus.
the 3. Well, he did. Listen, that was a Jesus shot. And it was as clean as you can swish a shot from the corner, and it nearly ripped my heart and soul out because I'm a Spurs fan, but it was a great clutch shot. So my point is that shot might have hurt those guys almost as much as it hurt me in a different way, because they're saying he did that for them after what we accomplished as a group. So I get that part of it, that he did not observe the do-right rule, right?
Was there such a rule in place?
I don't know. It's just kind of how you do business. It's just...
Well, Ray Allen was chasing championships.
Okay.
Yeah.
You got to remember that. It wasn't like, supersonic. He was coming to his last days. So when he see, we about to lose to Wade and LeBron, let me go over here and just sit in the corner and wait till somebody pass me the ball so I can win a championship. So, but at the same time, we battled with LeBron. That's why Rondo feels so. I felt a little bit too.
So Ray Allen was the reason that the Celtics didn't beat the Heat. Or was it LeBron dropping 45 on y'all?
No, it's just he went there. He wasn't supposed to go there. He was supposed to go somewhere
But nobody
else.
thought he was bleeding. What color are the Heat? I don't even know what they are. What are they, red?
Yeah.
Okay, he wasn't bleeding red while he was a Celtic. It wasn't that he had, Heat envy. It's just that he had an opportunity to go win another championship as your window had closed, right?
Ray was a supersonic. Ray was a buck.
He was.
He wore a lot of green. So he did bleed green. So supersonic green.
Okay.
He bled Milwaukee Bucks green. But at the end of the scale, think about it. Okay, look how many guys are on that picture that won the championship.
Oh, there go me right there.
So you're gonna invite all those guys, Allen and I don't even know.
That's Gabe Pruitt right there. Went to USC.
But no Ray Allen. Skip. That'll be like, okay, we're having a Super Bowl reunion, but Rob Smith or Ed McCaffrey, we ain't gonna invite one of them.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Okay, but it's, they loved Shannon Sharpe, but did they think Shannon went to chase a ring in Baltimore?
No.
Okay. It's the same. just how football's different than basketball. You got too many people on the team. This is close knit because it's just a few personalities, right? It's just you could say there's 12, but it's really like 8 or 9.
What is Rondo bleeding? Is he bleeding green?
Apparently, he did at that
point, at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And then they got tired of him bleeding green because he and Brad Stevens couldn't get along, and guess what? They shipped him out.
And then he couldn't get along, and then he couldn't get along.
And then he couldn't get along, and then think about it. He went to Dallas.
Yeah.
How long did he stay active on their roster?
I'm just saying he couldn't get along, and he got along, and he went there, and he went here. Yeah.
Get good or get gone, son.
Yeah.
Look, I'm not the biggest Rondo fan, nor Celtics fan, because I'm a Heat fan, no offense. But when I think of that team, I do not think of Rondo.
No.
Sorry, Ray Allen was one of the 3 players to average 20 points a game in those 2008 finals and made 10 more threes than any other player in that series.
But he didn't bleed green, though, baby.
And if it isn't Rondo, and it actually is Garnett and Pierce speaking to that, I don't think that either one of them were signing the checks for Ray Allen.
And by the way, you would go back for a reunion, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
But who thinks that Ray should
I'm
be there?
gonna be there, baby. I'm gonna be there for that.
This is past petty. I'm Queen Petty. This is past petty.
Yeah. This is silliness.
Petty tendercraft.
Yeah. Yes.
Thanks for joining us.
No mercy. This is the Skip and Shannon Undisputed podcast, where we're delivering you an unscripted, unfiltered, undisputed version of the biggest topics of the day's show. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, like us on Facebook at Undisputed on FS1, follow on Twitter at Undisputed, and catch us at 9:30 a.m. Eastern, 6:30 Pacific, Monday through Friday on FS1. You can find us on channel 219 on DirecTV, 150 on Dish. I'm your host, Joy Taylor. Next week, we'll have a great guest lineup with Michael Bennett, Orlando Scandrick, and Kenyon Martin. Thanks for joining us today. Have a great weekend, and we'll catch you next week.
Fox Sports 1 of 1.